Speaker today. My apologies, I didn't put doctor on there. So you can throw something at me later. All right, so we're fortunate to have Dr. Vickie Harden here with us, and she's chair and professor in the Department of Social Work at MTSU. She's a coordinator of the MSW program. She holds a Master's of Science in Social Work from the University of Tennessee and a PhD in Health and Human Performance from MTSU. So we were talking about it, 30 years or so, maybe slightly more. We were talking about how the years go by faster, and some of you maybe know slightly better than me. As we get older, the years go by a little bit faster. So her experience in social work and her practice primarily working with children and families who have experienced trauma and abuse. Her community-based research encompasses addressing health disparities and improving access to healthcare in rural communities. With that being said, ma'am, thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all having us. You had my friend Jamie last week, I think, who I've known for over 30 years too. She may not have admitted that, but she and I have worked together for a very long time. But thank you all for having us around this whole health month, I guess, that you've been working on. So we're going to talk about social connection. What's really interesting is I'm sitting here observing you all. I've got something I'm going to hand out to you to help you kind of plan out your health. You're doing so many of those things right here, right now. The connecting to one another, having a social event, eating together is actually kind of a cool social thing. The spiritual piece, the civic engagement, and the giving back to the communities. All those are really important to our health. So coming to Rotary is actually good for your health. That's kind of cool, right? On top of everything else. I'm going to do just a few little stats. I don't want to bore you with those things because I've got a timekeeper over here. I could talk about this for hours. But did you know that a lack of social connection actually does impact your physical and emotional and spiritual health and mental health? All those things are connected. Lacking social connection can increase the risk of premature death as much as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. That's pretty impactful. So lack of social connection, social isolation is actually considered an epidemic in our country, particularly since COVID, unfortunately. Some of my data comes from the Surgeon General's report, and I'll show you that in just a second. But I also wanted you to know that pretty much everybody's affected by this. Whether you feel like you have a robust social life, you may know someone affected by it. I mean, I know my mother, we moved her. She moved into a more senior living because she was living in her house by herself. As often as we would come over and visit and be with her, she's still alone. Those things affected her memory and her health. And we noticed a huge change whenever she was able to connect with others and be part of something bigger than her. You all know this as well. You're doing it today. 39% adults in the U.S. say that they felt connected, which means 60% of us do not feel connected, do not feel a social connection to others. The pandemic accelerated this problem, and so does social media. So I want you to think about social media for a second. We'll talk about that. People using social media for over 2 hours a day had double the odds of reporting increased perceived social isolation than those that use social media less than 30 minutes a day. So if you're on that phone, you're disconnecting, whether you think you are or not. You may be in the same room with all of us, but you're not connecting socially. It is affecting your health. So think about that. The high risk of social isolation includes increased risk of heart disease, increased risk of stroke, and increased risk of anxiety, depression, and dementia. So it's not just, I like to be alone. My daughter teases, she says, when I get older, because I'm already old, she's going to find me in a cabin in the woods alone, and she's going to have to drive down this unpaved road to get me to take a bath. I'm like, no, I will shower. I am a showerer. I like to shower 1 or 2 times a day. You don't have to worry about that part. But yes, I enjoy being alone. I'm that type person. However, I also know my risk factors of being alone too much, too often. So it is really important that you locate places and people that you can interact with, right? Just real quick, over 4 decades of research produced robust evidence that lacking social connection, and in particular scoring high on measures of social isolation, and you can be socially isolated in the middle of an urban community. It doesn't mean you live out in the sticks like where I want to be. It means that you literally have no interaction with others or very limited. Is associated with significant increases of early death of all causes. That's pretty serious, right? This is the Surgeon General's report from 2023. I use this in a lot of my classes. Lots of good information in this. You can get it online if you just want to have bedtime reading, you've got insomnia or something and you want to look at data. But there's a lot of important information in that talking about what's happening with regard to social connection in the United States. So what is the connection with our health? How does social connection influence health? Lots of ways, right? Psychologically, and you all probably learned from Jamie last week, if you didn't already know it, that our physiological health is all interconnected, right? Physical health, psychological health, mental health, emotional health, all those things are interconnected. Social connectedness affects all of that. So the lack of social connectedness, obviously, also affects all of that, right? Adults across the globe rank their social relationships, particularly those with family and close friends, as more important sources of meaning, purpose, and motivation in their lives. I've got those highlighted because meaning, purpose, and motivation are 3 key things with regard to our longevity and long-term health. You're doing that right here. Just in the little few minutes that I've been in here, I see you're working with the children in our community. You prayed, so you've got a spiritual connection. You have a sense of purpose with regard to the 4 agreements. 4-way test. Sorry, not 4 agreements. That's a whole other book. 4-way test. And you do that in a communal way. And you also had some green stuff on your plate, which is a good thing too, right? So improving social connection, here's some information, and I'm sorry that's kind of hard to read, but this is also in the Surgeon General's report. But there are some things individually, relationship, community, and society. So we can do those as individuals, we do it as communities, and that's why I'm thinking, as I'm sitting here going, you all have got the magic right here. You really do for this social connection issue. Oh, looky there. He made it bigger for us. So under community, for example, having safe outdoor space is important. Having housing in schools and workplaces that nurture that. So, you know, way back in the day, and I've lost his name because I am too old to remember things, there was a big push for community schools. That's why we have the good and the bad of Rockville Elementary, Rockville Middle, and Rockville High School, all in the same area. Now, traffic's horrible, but there is an actual social reason to have things like schools clustered because it builds community. Having the gyms and the schools open in the summer so kids in the community can come and play builds that sense of social connection. And the more connected we are, the more we value those things, right? And then the more children raise up into that type of setting. So, and then from a societal perspective, for example, your norms and values, you all expressed a lot of that already today here. What are the norms and values that you hold yourself to? Because those are also going to be reflected in the people that you are with and the community that you're in. So those are just some examples, right? Civic engagement's another big one, and I know you all are very, very big in that. I wanted to touch on blue zones. Who've heard of the blue zones? A couple folks out here. I want to touch on that because there's a huge social connection in blue zones. Blue zones are areas in the world where there are clusters of people who live to be over 100, but not just live to be over 100, live to be over 100 in a healthy way. That they're not sitting destitute, sitting in a nursing facility with no sort of purpose in life. So there's a lot of data and a lot of research around it. And I usually do like a 3-hour thing on blue zones, but we're not going to do that because I have a time and y'all don't want to be here all day. But I want to bring it up because social connection is a big part of the blue zone work. So here are some of them. There's Loma Linda, California, one of the few in the United States. There are some that have been added recently. And there are ways that we as a community can become a blue zone community. If you go on their website, that might be a kind of a cool thing for MTSU and for all of us to get involved in. to become a Blue Zone community.
I think that's part of Randy's job now that he's mayor.
Yeah, Randy, where are you? Where did he left me? I'm not, where did Randy go? He left us. Yeah, that would be honestly, we're looking at MTSU as a Blue Zone college. They've got curriculum, they've got ways that you can actually be endorsed and do this. But the reason it's important, and that's just kind of where they are, is because of this right here. There are 9, what we would call pillars, or 9 sort of things that we can hang our hat on. And I put arrows into several of them that are directly connected to what you all do and connected to social connectedness, right? So a sense of purpose is a big part of it. Wine at 5. You don't have to drink wine at 5. You don't have to drink wine, but it's about having a tradition or having a place where people gather, where you have people that, not wine alone at 5, okay? Wine at 5 really means, yes, there are health benefits in moderately drinking wine. People in Greece, for example, and Italy tell us that. But it's more about having a place to connect, right? Having people you connect with. Having the right tribe. That's a big one. And you all have found your tribe here, right? Also having loved ones first and having a sense of belongingness. Those are some key things that help build social connection, which also then improve your health. So all of those types of things, the right tribe, you know, I'm a tennis player, so I make fun of pickleballers, right? How many of you play pickleball? Be honest about it. Okay. It's okay. One of the things about pickleball is that it is a tribe. One of the things about tennis is we're a tribe too. But it gives you a sense of belonging. It gives you people that you can interact with and connect with. It's great exercise, certainly.
So I went to a conference in Tampa with the Red Cross. Me and a couple other people on staff play pickleball. So we looked up where could we play pickleball. And what I noticed when I left there, that was the social setting for the young people in Tampa. They were coming there to meet and greet, just like it was a great atmosphere to
It is, right? And what a better way to do it while you're exercising as well. You're doing something good for your body. You're doing something good for your emotions. You're building social connection. I think it's a little bit better than going down to Whiskey Dick's or whatever they call it now, right? So we need to tell that to our students. No, let's play pickleball, y'all. You know, whatever. But yeah. But you see all of these things that are interconnected. And these 9 pillars are what the Blue Zone folks, when they did the research, found were the most important things to help with longevity and long-term health. And I've got the little sheet that outlines those for you. Building social connections, we kind of talked through this, but this is nurturing relationships, modeling healthy connections. So like you were talking about, younger people being there, you're modeling what it looks like to have a healthy older life. I recently moved to Baxter. I've been here in Murfreesboro forever. Recently, my husband and I built a house out at the lake. My daughter and her husband are up in Cookeville. The girls, the young women are all complaining because they don't have any time for themselves. They've got small children, and it's a real complaint. I said, okay, meet me at the pickleball court in Cookeville. I'll teach y'all pickleball. They have gone crazy over it. Now, I'm kicking their booties, which is bothering them. I mean, they're like, I can't believe you're beating us. And I'll do like 1-on-2 and still beat them. But that actually is kind of a good role model, right? I'm saying to them, hey, look, see, you can be this old and still play pickleball and still be pretty decent at it. But those kind of things, right? Modeling what it means in our community to be healthy, to have healthy connections, both physically, emotionally, mentally, that whole thing around acceptance, that whole thing around helping our children grow into communities that are caring for them. Those are big pieces to this. Just a couple more: helping children and adolescents develop. We talked about that. Monitoring social media and online content. And that's directly out of the Surgeon General's report. I'm so thrilled that some of our school systems, and Randy's still not here, he didn't want to hear this. Some of our school systems are regulating social media use in schools. That's one of the best things they can do. And it is affecting physically and mentally our children's health. There are other research out there. It's called digital dementia, where they're seeing kids in elementary school literally losing knowledge, losing cognitive ability because of social media use. There's a couple other studies that tell us that adults today, right now, we are now officially smarter than kids coming out of college, which is the first time that's ever happened because of digital dementia. So we expect that every generation gets a little bit better and smarter, right? We think that should happen because we think that we're teaching them better. We think that we've got more technology out there. Well, it's actually kind of causing problems. And I can talk about that all day with students that we've got, but we won't go there. Connections to people, to self-help support and formal support. I added that because sometimes we can't just do it with our group of friends. We can't just do it with a group of colleagues. We have to reach out. And Murfreesboro has a robust self-help support system, not just AANA, but other kinds of support. And also traditional. You know, if you need to go to therapy, by God, go to therapy. It's no longer a stigma. Just go find somebody you can talk to that you can kind of help, with your own issues, because that also will help you with your overall health. I don't know if Jamie talked to you about adverse childhood experiences last week, but those things, those early traumas affect us as adults. It affects our physical self, our emotional self. Get it worked out. You should not have to live your life in that trauma. You can work it out. So as I'm running through this really fast, I'm okay?
Yep.
Encouraging a sense of purpose to me is the big part. And when I go to like my mother's senior living center, I've done a lot of work in nursing facilities. That is the big piece, is you've lost your sense of purpose as you get older. And it could be something simple as teaching my fellow residents how to crochet. It could be little things, but it could also be big things, helping us know that Murfreesboro, for example, can be the best possible community out there. That sense of purpose is what drives us. It's what nurtures social connection and is what impacts our physical, emotional, mental health. Yes, sir.
And I'd like to just add, as far as identifying your purpose to me, if once you've identified your purpose will pick your path.
Yes.
And your path will pick your people.
Yeah.
So all of those kind of intertwine with one another. So if you can identify purpose in the beginning stages, it'll get you on a path, and people will be placed in that path for you.
That is a beautiful sentiment. Did you all hear that? Purpose picks your path, and your path picks your people. Absolutely. I'm going to share that with students. I'm going to write that down. I like that. But it's true. Because I do have a lot of students who say, I don't know what I want to do with my life. I don't know. I'm like, and I start out with that old, what's your passion? And then they roll their eyes at me like, oh my God, you're sounding like my mama, what's your passion? I just want to make money. I get that. But you also have to have a drive. You have to have a purpose. And your purpose is not just to make money. That's okay if that's a driver for you, a motivation for you. But you all know that the longer term of that is going to expend itself. Right? That's going to go away when you get to the point where you want to retire and you don't know who you are as a person. You don't know what your purpose is in this world, because your purpose really isn't to make money. Your purpose is to do something to give back generally. So assisting in locating experiences that provide meaning, providing opportunities for common activities with social networks and family. So looking for those places that I can do that. And if it's not happening, make it happen. I've been trying for a year to get my kids to do the Sunday afternoon dinner thing. It's impossible, but I'm still trying because I want some kind of connection. I mean, we're very connected, but you know what I mean? Some tradition that we can hang our hats on, because tradition is very important. And then providing opportunities for sharing histories and life experiences. I've worked with some veterans, and one of the big things with them, we actually worked with a PhD out of North Georgia, and he has a program where veterans just come and they just listen to one another. They can't interrupt. You tell your story, and everyone listens to your story, and then the next person shares theirs. And there's no questioning, feedback. Oh my God, what happened next? How do you feel about that? It's just the sharing of the stories. And that in itself is so impactful. Yes, sir.
We do that through the aerospace department.
Yeah.
And we just meet once a month, throw darts, play pool, drink beer. No requirements, no nothing. People
Yeah.
just talk to each other.
Just come together and don't feel pressured. I've got a couple of colleagues at MTSU. We've started doing that too. We go for coffee, and our rule is there are no rules, but there is kind of a unspoken, like, don't get too academic. Like, I don't want to hear about the study you wrote, or I don't want to hear about what you published last month. Can we just be? And sometimes that's important too. And acceptance, right, of one another and who we are. So I ran through it fast. There were some other things I could have said, but I have my timer over here. Yes, sir.
Perfect. I'm good.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Two questions, pets and reading.
Pets and reading. So they're both valuable, right? They're very valuable experiences. And having pets, excuse me, does help with connection. I don't know that it helps with social connection, except that I think having pets puts you into a group of people who also maybe have pets, right? So I think that could be a very valuable catalyst for social connection. And reading, I mean, I read all the time. I don't know, it can be a solitary activity, right? But I think that there are reading clubs and reading groups and things that you could do to help nurture it from a social perspective, but not give up on that, certainly.
I read somewhere that dancing helps with memory as you grow older.
Yes.
And of course, the social aspect of it. Do you co-sign that?
I would definitely agree with that. I'm not a dancer. I am Scandinavian. We do not have any type of rhythm at all. My whole people are all from Sweden, so don't ask me to dance. We don't do that except for ABBA, and then they get all excited over ABBA. Last time I was there, we had to go to the second ABBA movie, or what it was. I don't know what it was. One of those movies with ABBA. They're like ABBA crazy. But other than that, I do think any kind of interaction, like when you're combining your physical self, physical activity, you know, that kinesmetrics piece with mental, you're definitely hitting a home run with regard to your memory and your cognitive abilities. Yes, sir.
So, my daughter just graduated college and is entering the workforce, so I'm really seeing she's working at a big company where it's like a whole bunch of college graduates, right?
Yep.
So I'm seeing this little picture of recent college graduates and how they do things, and I feel like at least my generation had a fairly hard line between work and personal, or like I have like I'm friendly with my work friends, my work connections, but then I have my personal world.
Right.
And it seems like the daughter's generation is all just like one big melting pot of personal, professional, and that is their social world. What is maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, what is the impact of those two approaches of separating work from social and mixing it all together?
I think you're right in a lot of ways, partly because there's so much remote work now.
Right.
And you can take your laptop and go sit somewhere at the coffee shop, which I never have really understood, because it's so distracting for me. But or they work from home, or they come in the office a couple of days a week. We have a lot of students doing that now. Even in their internships, I've had to say to agencies, no, they need to be on site with you. They're not learning the social piece to this by sitting in front of a computer. I think the benefit is that they do have strong connections, but we all know that in today's world, young people don't stay in jobs. So even if they have that connection, a year later, they're at a different job, they've lost those connections. So I feel like, personally, I think you should have as much separation, care for those people at work, certainly. If there are certain ones that you connect with, that's fine too. But you can't rely on that to be everything for you, because that's going to go away.
But they're able to peer into each other's lives now, like
That's
never
true,
before
man.
because of social media in school. Once they get
Yes,
to the
that's true.
workforce, they know everything about each other before they even meet each other, and that's
Scary.
Oh, a lot of that's personal things about those people.
It's
but
scary.
They all stalk each
Yeah,
other.
they do.
immediately.
And,
I mean,
you know, one of the things we tell our students when they're prepping for internship is clean up your social media accounts and make them private, because you don't want everybody to know everything you've done. And they still sometimes don't get it. You had a question.
I want to address, I have some really strong work friends
Yeah.
that I've been retired 16 years. And we still get together. Now, when I'm in Memphis, whoever here, work from all over, but we get together at least twice a year.
Yeah.
literally get together and we keep in touch. So I think you have a way that you can balance that,
Mhm.
because I have other friends, or these people I work with.
Right,
I
right.
consider them friends, or the same thing at church. So you can do both ways, but you have to actively work at keeping those
Yes.
friendships and those relationships if you want.
Hmm. I think that's a great point. And it is, any relationship is work, right? So, and knowing what the boundaries around those things are. So if you're retired and these are your work friends, you may have a different conversation with them than you did while you were employed with them, right? Like maybe there's some things you don't want them to know that happened Friday night at home, right? But then there may be some things that do, and he's leaving, I'm being carted off. The little hook is coming. So, you all have been wonderful. I could do this all day. I love this stuff. Thank you so much for your time, but I know it's time. Absolutely.
So she's got time for a couple minutes if anybody wanted to ask some more questions, and I so rudely stood up and interrupted. She